Hello everyone and welcome back to the OHLcollective.com and my YouTube channel Hardcore Steelheader for another video. Today's video is Former or Retired OHL Arenas, a history built by community. In this video we'll be talking about 7 former OHL arenas that are either retired or they've been torn down, and we're going to be talking about the history behind them and how they defined some teams' cultures in this arena and moved it to the new arenas. Some could argue in the last couple of years that the roots of the league itself have been lost a bit with the desire for 10,000 filled seats or huge video screens that reach blue line to blue line. It is important to recognize where the league has come from and give a nod to those who sat on harsh wooden benches and looked up only to see a score clock hanging from the rafters, if they were lucky. The first arena we'll be covering today is the famous Yardman Arena in Belleville, Ontario. The Yardman Arena in Belleville, Ontario is a prime example of what junior hockey in Canada was supposed to be. An arena for the community by the community. Before the Belleville Bulls moved to Hamilton to become the Hamilton Bulldogs, they were the pride of the Quinte region and were dearly loved by their fans and their city. Before its renovations to house the now Belleville Senators of the AHL, the Yardman Arena was unique in its own right. It had a lower capacity than most of the other arenas in the league, and that was a result of no end seating. The ice in Belleville was also unique, as it was the biggest ice surface in the OHL at Olympic size, which you'd think is kind of weird because teams coming into Belleville would probably hate it, like you gotta skate more. One of the most memorable games in the arena's history occurred in the conclusion of the 1999 season when the Belleville Bulls hosted Game 7 of the OHL final against the London Knights. The Bulls went on to win that Game 7 by a score of 9-2 and hoisted their first ever J. Ross Robertson Cup, which is the OHL championship, in front of their home crowd. A sad but very memorable day for the Yardman Arena was on Saturday, March 1st, 2015, when the Bulls played their final regular season game in the Ontario Hockey League, a game which they defeated the Sudbury Wolves 6-3, their final victory on the Yardman Arena ice. April 2nd, 2015 was the day it came to a close. The final game played by the Belleville Bulls in the Ontario Hockey League. Following a 4-2 Game 4 loss to the Barrie Colts in the Eastern Conference quarterfinal that year, the 34-year history of the Belleville Bulls came to a close, and they moved to Hamilton to become the Hamilton Bulldogs. The next chapter of the Yardman Arena has already begun, with the Belleville Senators of the AHL to call it home, and the people of Belleville finally have a team to cheer for again. The second arena we'll be looking at today is the Guelph Memorial Gardens. Before the Storm played out of the Sleeman Center, they called the Guelph Memorial Gardens home. Built in 1948, the arena and the building were part of the city's history. Previously built for the Royal Winter Fair predating the 1900s, it was reconstructed and built around to house an OHL rink and team, the Guelph Storm. The Guelph Memorial Gardens had a seating capacity of 4,000, approximately 700 less than that of the current Guelph Storm Arena, the Sleeman Center. The Memorial Gardens has history that reaches past that of junior hockey, but in terms of the Storm, the Memorial Gardens definitely has some stories to tell. The building housed the Guelph team that started their tenure pretty badly and reached its heights in 1994 and 1995 when the Storm finished first overall in the OHL. In this season, they would host the OHL final against the Detroit Junior Red Wings, eventually losing the series 4-2. The very next season, the Memorial Gardens was home to the best team in the OHL for a second consecutive year. The Storm would lose in the finals again, back-to-back, this time to the Peterborough Petes 4-3. In 1997-1998, the Memorial Gardens was able to say it was home to a champion. After finishing first overall for the third time in 4 years, the Gardens hosted another OHL championship series, this time welcoming in the Ottawa 67s. The Storm were finally able to break through and win their first J. Ross Robertson trophy, defeating the 67s 4-1 in 5 games. After a successful stint in the mid to late 1990s, the Guelph Storm moved out of the Guelph Memorial Gardens and into the newer Sleeman Center. They have called the Sleeman Center home since then, and the Memorial Gardens has since been torn down in 2006. Moving along to talk about the Kingston Memorial Center. Built in the 1950s, the Kingston Memorial Center is exactly the type of arena that many people today would avoid visiting, despite its unique history. The Kingston Memorial Arena is a representation of the city's dedication to Canadian war history. As it stands, it also represents exactly what comes to mind when you say an old hockey barn. The arena itself on the inside screams its age and history at you from all sides. Mostly constructed out of wood, with a seating capacity of just over 3,000 people, it was the perfect size for a team in its early stages, and when full, presented a great atmosphere. Home to the Kingston Frontenacs from 1989 to 2008, it only truly saw one successful Frontenac squad hit the ice during their years as the home rink. The Memorial Center saw the Frontenacs win only 3 playoff rounds in its entire 20-year history as the home rink. The kicker here being that the Frontenacs only missed the postseason 7 times across that same stretch. The building itself has a long history to the city of Kingston. The arena is still standing today and used by Queen's University's women's and men's hockey teams. Now, one of my favorite retro OHL rinks, the Jack Gatecliff Arena. When it called the Niagara Ice Dogs home between 2007 and 2014, it was one of, if not the toughest buildings for teams to play in. Built in 1938 and renovated once in 1996, the fans in attendance are basically on top of the ice and they are always loud. With a capacity of just over 3,000 including standing room, it was the smallest arena in the OHL when the Ice Dogs called it home. As mentioned before, it was probably the most intimate and loudest. As its age would tell, most of the building is noticeably old, with wooden benches for seats and extremely extremely small walkways for a concourse. Of the 7 years that the Ice Dogs played at the Jack, they led the OHL in capacity percentage for 6 of them. The Jack saw a playoff series in each year that it housed the Ice Dogs, including a run to the OHL final in 2012. The Niagara Ice Dogs have since moved to the 5,300-seat Meridian Center, but the Jack Gatecliff Arena is still used today as it is home to the St. Catharines Junior B Falcons of the GOJHL. Next arena we'll be talking about is Hambly Arena. The very first home of the Oshawa Generals, Hambly Arena was built in 1930 and subsequently burned down on September 15, 1953. While there is no trace that the arena was ever there in present-day Oshawa, Ontario, it was home to one of the most dominant junior teams in Canada of its time. Home of the Oshawa Generals from their inception in 1937 to 1953 when the building burned down, the Hambly saw the Oshawa Generals tear the OHA, that's right, the OHL used to be called the OHA, apart during their time in the arena. From 1937 to 1944, the Generals brought 7 consecutive OHA championships to Oshawa and the Hambly Arena. 7 consecutive championships. During the same stretch, the Hambly Arena was home to the Memorial Cup trophy 3 times in 1939, 1940, and 1944. The Hambly Arena was not just the home of the Oshawa Generals. In a way, it was the Oshawa Generals. When the arena was burned down in 1953, the team went down with it. The Oshawa Generals would cease to exist from the 1953 season all the way up to 1962, a whole 9 years, when they were reactivated and played in the Metro Junior A League, playing their home games out of the historic Maple Leaf Gardens for the 62-63 season. The Generals were readmitted to the OHA, or the OHL, in the 1963-1964 season and played out of the Bowmanville Arena for 1 full season while the Civic Auditorium was being finished. Next arena, Maple Leaf Gardens. As an arena that many of you only know as home to the Toronto Maple Leafs, it also housed an OHA team, the Toronto Marlboros from 1931 to 1989, and then again from 1997 to 2000 when the Toronto St. Michael's Majors called the Gardens home. Opened in 1931, Maple Leaf Gardens had an original seating capacity of around 12,000 people at the time, housing the Toronto Maple Leafs of the NHL and the Toronto Marlboros of the OHA. Known for being one of the NHL's original 6, much is known about the Gardens' design features that made it so spectacular. Fact of the matter was, for the OHL teams that called it home, it was just too large, and therefore lost a bit of its touch. While the Marlboros called the Gardens home from 1931 to 1989, the team won an astounding 7 Memorial Cups and 10 J. Ross Robertson Cups in 17 appearances. The Marlboros also finished first in the OHA 8 times from 1937 to 1989. The other OHL team to call the Gardens home had much less success while playing out of the historic building. In the 3 seasons that the Toronto St. Michael's Majors played at the Gardens, they won a total of 53 games in 202 played, missing the playoffs in each of the 3 seasons. Maple Leaf Gardens has since closed as a major hockey arena and underwent extensive renovations, leaving only an approximately 2,000-seat arena behind, which is home to the Ryerson Rams of the OUA and is home to the OHL Cup final every year. Our final arena on the list is Windsor Arena. Before the Spitfires' departure in the 2007-2008 season, the Windsor Arena was the oldest active building in the OHL, opened in 1924. The Windsor Spitfires called the 14,400-seat capacity Windsor Arena home from 1975 to 2008. While being the oldest building in the OHL, it stood with a lot of character. We hear the term old hockey barn a lot, and that's exactly what Windsor Arena was. The inside was to be expected, approaching 100 years of activity. Mostly wooden benches, dark and crammed concourse, and an obsolete score clock. As any building that old, almost 100 years at this point, it saw a lot of teams flow through its doors. The Windsor Arena saw the Spitfires finish first in the Ems division twice, in 1979 and again in 1989. Seeing an OHL championship series in the 1979-1980 season, the Spitfires were swept 4-0 against the Peterborough Petes. Barn and its fans would see revenge play out at the conclusion of the 1987-88 season, when the Spitfires and the Petes once again met for the OHL championship in the OHL final, this time with the Spitfires sweeping the Petes to win their first ever OHL championship. While the Spitfires relocated to the WFCU Center in the 2008-2009 season, ironically the same season they won their first Memorial Cup, the old Windsor Arena still played a part to the historic season. To begin the season, the Spitfires were to play 12 final home games at the Windsor Arena, concluding with a 2-1 victory over the Guelph Storm on December 4th, 2008. The Spitfires won all 12 of their final home games played at the Windsor Arena. While the Spitfires left after the 2008-2009 season, the OUA's Windsor Lancers called the Windsor Arena home from 2009 to 2013. While some of these buildings are no longer standing, sitting vacant, or are home to different levels of hockey, they still play a major part of the history of the OHL and should never be forgotten. One day, the same will be said about your favorite OHL rinks of today, whether it be the newly named Paramount Center, the First Ontario Center, the Barry Molson Center, or even the Peterborough Memorial Center, arenas that you will never think to forget. Thank you for watching my video today. Check out the OHLcollective.com for more videos. I would like to say a very big thank you to Brandon Wright for writing the article for this video. He really did his research and put together something amazing that I was able to make this video with, so huge thanks to him him for the idea and to put together all the research that he had done. It was a fun video to make. Once again, check out the OHLcollective.com, my YouTube channel, and have a great day. We'll see you in the next video or next article on our website.